Hey YouTube! Today I'm filming a review that I did not plan to film. This is based off of an impulse buy. I had no idea that I was going to enjoy it. I thought that I might maybe like it, and that's why I picked it up. After using every color in this palette, after making, so far, 4 looks out of this palette, all of which I have thought were a massive success, I've realized I've got to come on here and tell you guys just how good I think this product is, and that is the NYX In Your Element Air Palette. So these palettes have had a little bit of controversy associated with them. This is the brand NYX, which is indeed a drugstore brand. However, this palette is $30. A lot of people were kind of upset about that because the rising cost of drugstore in general is starting to get frustrating. However, I understand why this is $30, and I'm going to explain to you why I think that's completely fine throughout this video. And I'm going to cover the pros and the cons. Hope to give you guys a really in-depth and thorough review. So first off, let me go ahead and show you guys the palette itself. It does come in this really pretty packaging. I think the size is basically perfect. I think it's a very ideal, good for travel, not overwhelming size. And then the inside of the palette looks like this. So the reason I did end up picking up this palette is I felt like I didn't own these colors, which is kind of shocking. I have an awfully large eyeshadow collection, so when a palette comes out that seems to be different, it does intrigue me. And in fact, I really do think I don't have dupes for quite a few of these colors. In particular, I don't think I have anything even remotely like this orange coral color. It's very, very unique, as well as this light seafoam green, both of which are mattes and both of which are done very, very well. So what I want to do is walk you guys through how I ended up using this palette, what ended up making me decide I need to film a video on this. So when I first received this palette, the colors I was most excited about, you guys that watch my channel will know, and that will be these purple colors. So we have these 2 very metallic colors in here. I think I'm just going to refer to the palette when talking about these since they're just given numbers as designations. So anyway, the 2 purples in here, both are very pretty, both are a little bit difficult to work with. So the very first look that I made with this, I've recreated today. It is probably my favorite look, and I use this orange right here in the crease. I use this color as my transition, and then I use mostly this color on my lid with a little bit of this in the outer corner, and then the green as an inner corner highlight. So my thoughts on this palette, based off the first use, I did notice that there's not really a lot of colors that work well in the outer V. This is kind of a lot of lid colors and a lot of crease colors. I don't think that has to be a problem, but if you are looking for darker colors, they're just not really in this palette, and you might want to pull in another palette. However, I did want to stick to just this palette for this look today, so I do have a blend of the light color and the light purple and then the slightly darker purple. Now the first time I ever tried to use this palette, I used this shade Wet. I don't think I would recommend that. This color kind of has to be built up, but it can be. I don't think that using it wet really gave me any additional advantage, which I think is a little interesting. It's just that you have to build it up no matter how you use it. But it can be built up, and you do end up with a very pretty purple in the end. Same with this color, exact same deal. I think they're both good, but require a lot of building up. The next look I ended up doing with this palette, I decided I really wanted to hit the target of what this palette is supposed to be, so I thought I want to do a very air-inspired look. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the corner a picture of the look that I made with it. So for that look, I used the blue and the green shades in my crease, and then I used this silver color all over the lid. For whatever reason, this silver is so much easier to work with than the 2 metallic purples. It is a piece of cake. I used it dry. No problems whatsoever. Stunning pigmentation very quickly. I really, really started to like this palette after this look. It was exactly what I wanted it to be, and I was very happy with it. Now the third look that I did with this palette, I really wanted to play around with the hot pink color in here. I've seen a lot of looks based off of it, and they all come out looking very, very bold. So what I did is I started with the salmon matte shade down here as my transition shade. I used the orange as a crease shade, and then I got to the pink as my lid color. And at this point, I could not believe how fast this look was done, because that was an all matte look and it came out looking wonderful. I will put this in the corner as well. I was so impressed with the palette at this point. This is where I decided I've got to film this review. So one thing I want to do in this video is tell you guys what eyeshadows I have that I think are kind of similar, what palettes I think are kind of similar, but I still want to say I don't own anything that is like this palette. I don't own any pastel palettes. I had said a long time ago I owned a Dior one. I decluttered it ages ago. I have felt like pastels just do not work up until getting this palette. So let me tell you what I do still have that I think has some similarities. So first is going to be the Electric palette. I'm going to swatch a couple colors from here. I still think this is obviously a much brighter palette overall. The Viseart Editorial palette, which is also significantly brighter. And then the only place I could find even a kind of similar purple is in the Marc Jacobs Tease palette, which is, to date, the best purple colors that I own. Okay, so here's a comparison of the Marc Jacobs Metallic Purple. That is going to be this one all the way down here, which I think is probably the most metallic purple that I own. So that's that one compared to the two purples that are in the Air palette. As you can see, this one is a little bit more bold. It is indeed a little easier to work with, but both of these are not at all bad. They are actually quite good as far as purples go. Okay, so now I have some swatches of pinks, greens, and then a couple kind of orange colors. This is from the Urban Decay palette, Electric palette. It's a very, very hot pink. This one is from the Viseart, and then this one is from the Air palette. You can see it's a little bit more of a fuchsia tone to it. Then we have the greens, Electric palette, which is a very shimmery color. The Viseart matte, which is kind of a teal blue color. And then this one, which actually I feel like looking at it almost has a little bit of a slight shimmer to it, although it looks completely matte in the pan. And then these oranges right here, this is from the Viseart. This is supposed to be, this is as orange of a color as I could come up with. It is that color right there. And then you can see how that compares to this color and why I'm saying this has a little bit more of a coral to it. It's a very unique color. So overall, I am so incredibly happy I purchased this palette. It is so unique to my collection and so much better quality than, to be honest with you, I ever expected it to be. The fact that I was comparing this to Viseart colors still blows my mind. I will say that a couple colors in here that were problematic for me kind of were the purples, but not awfully. They just took a little bit more building up. They're still way better than any purple that Too Faced has ever released. I also think that this transition color is a little bit too light for me, and I'm pretty fair-skinned, so I think it's really, it might not work for everybody. I do think that this is the kind of palette where if you really want a transition shade, you might want to reach for another palette. If you really want a matte white shade for under the brow, you might want to reach for another palette. And then of course there's not really any dark colors in here. I think this is kind of an add-on palette, but all of the looks that I am showing you guys in this video are all made with this palette, so I think that if you treat it as a different palette, then you can be very happy with the end result. Overall, I love this palette. I think it is worth every penny. I am incredibly impressed, and I'm definitely thinking about picking up a couple more from the In Your Element collection. I'm blown away by the quality. I think NYX really did a good job on this. Alright YouTube, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're entered in my giveaway. I've got a little over a week left on that, so do make sure you enter. And thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace out.